The sun that morning had no mercy. Lagos was hot, loud, and watching. Cameras blinked outside the tall white gate. Reporters whispered behind tinted windows. A drone hovered like a vulture. Amanda stood just inside the compound. Her belly was round. Her silk gown stretched tight. Her eyes were red. Her voice broke as she spoke. Say it's a lie. Say you're not the father of my child. The man didn't blink. He didn't bow. He only gave a small, sharp smile. My name is Jonathan, he said, calm as still water. And you already know the truth. The guards looked confused. They had seen many things guarding Amanda's mansion. Angry ex-partners, greedy cousins, even paparazzi in disguise. But this was different. This was dangerous. This was quiet. Amanda took a step back. Her hand clutched her belly like she could hide the baby. Her lips trembled. Then she said it, the words that would travel across Lagos by evening. He can't be the father of my baby. Before that moment, Amanda Mandanda was untouchable. The kind of woman who walked into meetings and silenced rooms without speaking. The CEO of Manda Group, billionaire by 35. Her cars were black and quiet. Her shoes clicked like small thunder. Her perfume smelled like victory. People said she could pull down the sky if she wanted. And they weren't wrong. After her parents died and her ex-husband ran off with her money, she rebuilt herself from the ashes. Her motto was simple: trust no one, especially men. Love was a weakness. Control was safety. So when Jonathan first came to her gate months earlier, she didn't flinch. He was dusty, thin, dressed in an old brown coat. His hands were folded like a question. A staff member had taken pity and waved him in. He stood in the compound with his shoulders low and his voice soft. Please, madam. Just a plate of food or a small job. Cleaner, driver, anything. I used to be a bank manager. I lost everything when a staff lied against me. Went to prison. Came out to find my wife gone, my house sold, my children. DNA said they weren't mine. My best friend was their father. I'm begging for a chance. Amanda stood beside her Bentley. She had a cold water bottle in her hand and the sun behind her like a halo. She watched his face the way a judge watches a losing case. When he finished, she tilted the bottle and poured what was left over his head. The water ran down his face. He didn't move. He closed his eyes. Get out of my compound, she said. Her chief of security, Nelson, clicked his fingers. 2 guards stepped forward. Jonathan wiped his face with the back of his hand. He raised his head slowly. I thought you were human, he said quietly. But maybe you were stone. Still, remember this moment. The world is wide. Humiliation can return. Amanda's eyes flashed. Nelson, throw him out. The gate closed behind him. The day moved on. Amanda didn't. Because humiliation did return. First came the contract. The $50 million deal that disappeared overnight. Partners who had smiled bright smiles sent a cold email at midnight. The board gasped. Shareholders frowned. The market responded with a shrug Amanda couldn't afford. She didn't go home. She told her driver to leave. She took her own keys, wore dark glasses to hide her swollen eyes, and drove into town alone. She stopped at a bar with neon lights and loud music. She hated bars. She hated crowds. But pain doesn't ask permission. It takes people where they said they'd never go. She sat at a corner table still wearing her diamonds. Her watch sparkled like it didn't know sorrow. She drank more than she ever had. When she stood to leave, the world tilted. The parking lot spun. Her car key slipped from her hand. And then a man stepped from the shadows. Careful, madam, he said. He smelled of rain and dust, of clean soap and public taps. He bent down and picked up the key. Amanda blinked. Her lashes were heavy. Her tongue thick. Who are you? Jonathan, he said. From your gate. She stared. Her pride wanted to fight. Her shame wanted to cry. But her body was heavy, and the night was heavier. You can't drive like this, he said gently. Let me take you home. She tried to protest. Pride is loud, but alcohol is louder. He helped her into the back seat, where she lay down like a queen in retreat. He drove past hawkers and tired traffic wardens, past yellow buses and giant billboards. At the mansion, the guards tensed. One opened his mouth to protest. Leave him, Amanda mumbled from the back seat. He's helping me. Jonathan carried her up the steps because her knees refused. Her perfume filled the air. The crystal lights threw broken stars on the floor. Nelson followed, silent and unsure. Jonathan opened the bedroom door with his shoulder. He laid her on the bed. I'll go now, he said. But Amanda's fingers caught his shirt. "Don't go," she whispered. "Please stay." The house held its breath. Outside, the generator hummed. Nelson stood in the corridor, staring at his shoes. There are moments in life when no rule helps. Only choices. And consequences. By morning, the car was back in its place. The gate stood tall and secret. Jonathan was gone. Amanda remembered nothing. Days passed. Then weeks. Then questions. She skipped meetings. Slept badly. Ate worse. Her reflection looked like a stranger. When her period didn't come, she blamed stress. When it didn't come again, she blamed hormones. By the time she got tested, she was 4 months along. The nurse smiled. "Congratulations, madam." Amanda laughed. Laughter like a scream no one else could hear. Then came the silence. 4 months became 5. 5 became 8. The belly grew bold. The world noticed. Blogs posted headlines. Cameras gathered outside the gate. Shareholders asked careful questions with careful smiles. Amanda sat alone many nights. One hand on her belly. One hand covering her mouth. Her memory was a foggy sea. Until one night, she called Nelson. The curtains were drawn. The AC hummed. "Nelson," she said, "answer me carefully. Did I bring anyone home 8 months ago?" Nelson looked at her, then at the floor, then back at her. He nodded. "Yes, madam. You came in late. You were not yourself. Jonathan brought you. You told us to let him help. He carried you upstairs. He stayed for a while. Then he left." Amanda's breath shook. A picture returned. Blurry. Then sharp. A hand. A whisper. A door closing. Tears rolled hot and fast. She covered her face. Her shoulders shook. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. "Find him," she said. "Please. Bring him." Morning came with soft gold light. Jonathan walked through the gate. Same bag. Same coat. Same eyes. Amanda met him in a rich Ankara gown, belly bright under the morning sun. Her hands trembled. Her chin was high. Her heart was loud. She stopped 3 steps from him. "Jonathan," she said, "tell me it's not true. Tell me you didn't take advantage of me." He looked at her. Pain, pride, and something else crossed his face. Something tender. Or maybe tired. Or maybe, he said slowly, you held on to me because you wanted what the world refused you. A child. Amanda's hand curled over her stomach. Her other hand rose in protest. Tears gathered again. "No," she whispered. "No, he can't be the father." Outside the gate, a reporter's camera clicked 3 times. Inside, Nelson took a small step forward. Jonathan turned as if to leave. His hand touched the gate. "I told you," he said without turning back. "Humiliation always returns. When you're ready to talk like a human being, call me. We will plan for our baby." Then the gate creaked open again. A black SUV screeched to a stop. Reporters poured out. Microphones lifted like spears. The chant began. Billionaire and the beggar. Billionaire and the beggar. Amanda froze on the steps, hands on her belly. The whole world was watching. Jonathan didn't flinch. Amanda whispered through clenched teeth. "Tell them it's not true." Jonathan's eyes met hers. Calm, tired, unshaken. "Why lie?" he said. "The truth always finds a way." The gate shook. Someone slammed it hard. Reporters pushed. Guards pushed back. Nelson gave sharp orders. The press didn't care. Drones flew higher. The footage was already online. Inside, Amanda stumbled. Her breath was short. Her heels felt heavy. She reached the velvet armchair in her living room and collapsed into it. Gold curtains drawn. Silence except for the low murmur of generators and shame. She wiped her face quickly. Then again, her hands were shaking. "No," she hissed to herself. "This cannot be my story. I am Amanda Mandanda, CEO of Manda Group, billionaire survivor. Not this." But her voice broke. Jonathan remained outside, sitting quietly on the pavement. The guards watched him, unsure. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just opened a worn Bible from his bag and read, unmoved by the noise beyond the gate. That night, Amanda didn't sleep. She paced her room like a lioness in a cage. Her silk gown dragged softly over the carpet. The shadows on the walls were long and accusing. She remembered the neon bar, the spinning floor, the steady hands that caught her before she fell. She remembered the fog that swallowed everything after. Her pride said deny it, but her belly said otherwise. At 2:08 a.m., she pressed the intercom. "Nelson," she said, voice low. "Bring him inside." Minutes later, Jonathan stood in her sitting room. The chandeliers above them glittered like gossip. The air smelled of lavender and secrets. Amanda folded her arms. Her eyes locked onto his. "Why didn't you leave me that night?" she asked. Jonathan closed his Bible. His thumb marked a page. "Because even when you poured water on me, I saw a woman breaking under diamonds. I couldn't let you crash and die." Her chest rose sharply. His words stabbed through the armor she wore under her skin. "You think I wanted this?" she whispered, pressing her hands to her belly. "You think I wanted the world laughing at me? You think I wanted to be the woman who couldn't remember how she got pregnant?" Jonathan stepped closer. His voice was steady, without pity. "No, but maybe you needed it. Maybe God chose the foolish thing to humble the mighty." Amanda turned her face away. She was trembling now, but not from rage. Before she could answer, Nelson rushed in, his voice tight. "Madam, forgive me, but the press won't stop. They're still outside. Some have entered the compound. And—" he hesitated. "The board. They've called an emergency meeting. Tomorrow morning. They want answers." Amanda's face turned pale. The board. Her empire. Her legacy. Everything she built with fire. She grabbed Jonathan's arm, hard. Even she didn't expect her fingers to shake. "They will destroy me," she said. Her voice dropped. "If they know, they will tear me apart. You must come with me. You must stand beside me. Do you understand?" Jonathan looked down at her hand. His expression didn't change, but something passed behind his eyes. "So now the mighty Amanda needs the man she once threw out," he said quietly. Shame burned hot in her chest. But she didn't let go. "Yes," she said, voice breaking. "I need you." Jonathan leaned in slightly. His words brushed her ear. "Then you must be ready to pay the price." Before she could ask what he meant, Nelson burst in again. "Madam, reporters are at the window." Amanda rushed to the curtain, pulled it back. A dozen cameras caught her hand still gripping Jonathan's arm. And outside, the chant got louder. "Billionaire and the beggar. Billionaire and the beggar." Amanda stumbled back. Her chest was heaving. The world was crashing in, but Jonathan stood calm in the center of it. By morning, the headquarters of Manda Group was under siege. Not with lawsuits, not with police, but with headlines. Every camera was pointed at the front steps. Amanda walked into the building dressed in black. Sharp suit, tight bun, swollen belly. Every click of her heels was a fight against fear. Jonathan walked behind her, no longer in his old coat. Nelson had taken him to a private salon at Amanda's request. Now, his beard was clean. His shirt was ironed. His posture straight. But his eyes, the calm ones that had seen prison, betrayal, and humiliation, they hadn't changed. "Madam," Nelson whispered as they stepped into the elevator. "Are you sure this is wise?" Amanda said nothing. She just tightened her grip on the folder in her hand. The boardroom was already on fire. Not with heat, but with suspicion. 12 members. 6 allies, for opportunists, 2 waiting for blood. Their suits were spotless. Their smiles were knives. Chief Attawale, at the head of the table, cleared his throat. "Amanda," he began, "you've taken us far. But this is something else. The media is out of control. The investors want clarity. They need to know, is the man behind you the father of your unborn child?" The air turned heavy. Amanda sat down. Slowly, she placed the folder on the table, then looked up. "I will answer," she said. "But first, he will speak." Gasps. Jonathan stepped forward. "My name is Jonathan Okoro," he said. "I was once a bank manager. I lost everything. Yes, I met Amanda. Yes, I helped her when she was broken. Yes, she carries my child." Chaos. A wave of murmurs. A woman gasped. A man cursed under his breath. Chief Attawale held up a hand. "Enough." He looked at Amanda, his voice cold now. "Do you understand what this means?" Amanda swallowed. But before she could speak, Jonathan raised a hand. "You see a homeless man," he said. "But skills do not vanish when a man loses his home. Wisdom does not rot when life beats him down. I tell you, what Amanda carries is not shame. It's proof that power has a heart, and that truth doesn't need a suit." Silence. Then a bang. The doors burst open. Michael Attawale walked in, a folded tabloid in his hand. His father's face fell. "This is a disgrace," Michael said. "The shareholders want Amanda removed immediately. The company cannot be led by a woman carrying a beggar's child." The room exploded. Voices rose. Papers flew. Amanda stood, belly heavy, voice sharp. "Who dares to challenge me?" Michael stepped forward. Me, he said, and I will fight you until this company is mine. Whispers raced like fire. Michael Attewell, the chairman's son. Amanda's fists clenched. But before she could answer, Jonathan stepped in front of her. His eyes locked on Michael. If you touch her, he said quietly, you will regret it. The boardroom froze. And then Michael smiled coldly. You think you're the father? He said. Wait until you see the DNA results. The room went silent. Thick, breathless, waiting. Michael dropped the folded paper onto the glass table. It landed like a blade. Amanda reached for it with shaking hands. Her eyes scanned the page. The words hit like a slap. Preliminary results suggest paternity is uncertain. DNA points to a second possible match. Her voice came out in a whisper. This is a lie. Michael leaned forward, smiling like a man who brought fire to a dry forest. Is it? Investors don't care if it's true or false. They care about perception. And right now, Amanda, you are drowning in perception. Amanda's throat closed. For the first time in years, she felt truly powerless. Not because of the board, not because of the press, but because she didn't know who was holding the knife this time. Jonathan stepped forward, voice calm. Where did this come from? Michael raised an eyebrow. It's published. It's real. Jonathan didn't blink. What lab? What doctor? Where's the certified report? Or is this just a tabloid circus dressed as science? One board member shifted. Another looked at the ceiling. Jonathan stepped closer. Media lies when men like you feed them. If you want to destroy her, do it with truth, not gossip. Chief Attewell slammed the table. Enough. This is not a court. It's a board meeting. Michael turned sharply to his father. Then act like a chairman, not her protector. His voice cracked at the edge. Amanda watched him carefully now. It wasn't righteousness. It wasn't fear. It was hunger. The kind that comes when power is close enough to taste. She pointed a finger straight at him. You're not after truth. You're after my seat. Michael didn't deny it. The room cracked wide open. Some board members nodded slowly. Others whispered. Chief Attewell stood, his face tight. This meeting is adjourned. Bring proof. Verified results. Until then, we decide nothing. Amanda stood too. Her legs wobbled slightly. Jonathan steadied her without asking. The moment they stepped outside, cameras attacked again. Madam Amanda, is the test real? Jonathan, what if the baby isn't yours? Do you plan to resign, madam? Are you marrying him? Amanda didn't speak. She slid into the SUV like it was armor. Jonathan followed. The door slammed. Silence. Air conditioning. Breathing. Amanda leaned back. Her hands clutched her belly. DNA results, she whispered. But I never approved a test. Her eyes snapped open. She looked to the front seat. Nelson, who had access to my medical file. Nelson's voice was low. Only two people, madam. Your personal assistant. And your doctor. Amanda closed her eyes. Betrayal had never come from strangers. Only from those who called her by her first name. Jonathan leaned forward. His voice was firm now. We find the leak. We prove the result is false. That's your only way back. Amanda turned to look at him. His eyes were steady. Focused. Not angry. Not afraid. Just ready. Why are you helping me? She asked. He smiled faintly. Because truth doesn't belong to the rich or the poor. It belongs to whoever is brave enough to carry it. She stared at him for a long time. And for the first time, she didn't see the man she had humiliated. She saw a man who had once worn suits, signed documents, managed wealth. A man who had lost everything but never lost his calm. Before she could speak, Nelson's phone rang. He picked up, listened, then turned in his seat. Madam, it's the hospital. They want to see you. Urgently. Amanda's hand flew to her belly. The baby? Nelson hesitated. Not the baby. The doctor. The hospital's private wing smelled of lemon and bleach. The white walls were too clean. The lights too bright. Amanda walked slowly. Jonathan beside her. The doctor stood in her office. Slim. Nervous. Eyes darting. Amanda didn't sit. Did you leak my results? She asked. The doctor swallowed. Madam, they threatened me. Amanda's voice sharpened. Who? Michael's people. They came with documents. Lawyers. Promises. Warnings. They said if I didn't cooperate, they'd ruin my career. Amanda stepped closer. Did you alter the test? The doctor's voice cracked. Yes, but only the preliminary note. The real result, Jonathan is the only match. The baby is his. There is no second possible father. Amanda nearly fell. Jonathan caught her arm. She looked at the doctor, then at the ground, then at Jonathan. Her eyes filled. "You are the father," she whispered. "It was always you." Jonathan's expression softened. For once, his smirk disappeared. "I told you," he said gently. "Humiliation returns. But sometimes, so does grace." Amanda turned to respond, but the door burst open again. Michael walked in, followed by two men in dark suits. "Court officers." He slapped a new folder on the desk. "You thought you could hide it," he said. "Tomorrow morning, there will be a court-ordered DNA test. Public. Official. Final." Amanda gasped. Nelson clenched his fists. The doctor stepped back. Jonathan didn't move. "Good," he said. His voice didn't rise. His face didn't twist. "Let the world see the truth." The morning of the court-ordered DNA test did not begin quietly. It roared. By 6 a.m., Lagos was wide awake. Radios debated. Headlines screamed. Screens blinked with countdowns like it was an election or an execution. Outside the courthouse, the crowd thickened. Some came to jeer, some came to film, and a few came just to say they were there. In the black SUV, Amanda sat perfectly still. She wore a long white gown, plain and precise. No diamonds. No designer flair. Her hair was tied back. Her face was bare except for powder to hide what sleep had not erased. Her hands stayed folded over her stomach. She looked not like a CEO, not like a billionaire, but like a woman preparing for battle she could not win. Beside her, Jonathan sat in silence. Navy blue caftan, clean lines, a worn bag still on his lap, like a passport to pain. His beard was trimmed, his posture straight, but his eyes, those calm, unshaken eyes, remained untouched. Nelson sat at the wheel. "We can still turn around," he said quietly. Amanda didn't answer right away. Then she shook her head. "If I run today, I'll be running for the rest of my life." She turned to Jonathan. "I'm not afraid of the truth anymore. I'm afraid of what the truth will cost." Jonathan's voice was low, steady. "Let the world do what it wants," he said. "We will still be standing." Inside the courthouse, every bench was filled. Judges in black robes, reporters in cheap suits, social media influencers who'd never seen the inside of a courtroom. Even rivals from the business world came, not to testify, but to witness. Michael was already there. Suit crisp, grin tight. His fingers tapped the folder in front of him like he was waiting to open a gift he'd bought for himself. Amanda walked in slowly. Her belly stretched beneath the fabric. Each step echoed. Jonathan followed, quiet as always. The judge looked up. "Miss Mandanda, Mr. Okoro, you are both here today under public and legal scrutiny. The court will administer a DNA test to determine the paternity of the unborn child. Do you consent?" Amanda stood. Her voice shook, but only slightly. "Yes, my lord." Jonathan nodded once. "Yes." The process was simple, efficient. Amanda's blood was taken. Jonathan's too. The baby's genetic data was already on file from her prenatal visits. The judge ordered a recess. The results would arrive that same day. Amanda sat in a quiet waiting room with her back straight and her hands unmoving. She didn't speak, didn't blink. Jonathan sat across from her, reading from his Bible like it was a newspaper and the world wasn't watching. Amanda finally spoke. "Why are you so calm?" Jonathan didn't look up. "Because truth doesn't panic. It waits." She looked at him. There was no smugness, no victory in his posture, just stillness. "And if they twist it again?" she whispered. "If someone gets paid off? If they lie?" Jonathan closed the Bible. "Then let them lie. But you will know. The child will know. And I will know." Amanda blinked. Her hands moved to her stomach, protective and slow. "I've fought men in suits. I've fought banks and politicians. But this..." Her voice broke. "This is my own boardroom bleeding me dry." Jonathan's tone didn't change. "You fought with pride. Now you're fighting with truth. It's different, but it's not weaker." Time dragged like a storm cloud. Then the court clerk returned, holding a sealed envelope like it contained a bomb. He handed it to the judge, who opened it slowly, silently. The courtroom went still. Outside, people watched live streams on cracked phones. Finally, the judge looked up. "These DNA test results confirm," he said, with 99.9% certainty, "that the biological father of Amanda Mandanda's unborn child is..." He paused. "Mr. Jonathan Okoro." The room gasped. No one breathed. Then came the noise. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted over one another. Some board members buried their faces. Others typed messages mid-panic. Amanda stood, then staggered. Jonathan caught her arm before she fell. He didn't lift his head. He didn't celebrate. He just stood there, holding her, while the world collapsed around them. Michael stood, eyes burning. "This is fake," he shouted. "It's rigged. Someone was paid. This is a setup." The judge slammed his gavel once. Silence. Michael kept shouting. "He bribed them. He's not the father." The judge's voice thundered. "The result is court certified. Chain of custody verified. Lab registered. The matter is settled." Amanda looked at Jonathan. Really looked. She didn't see shame anymore. Or scandal. She saw a man who had walked through fire and didn't come out clean, but came out whole. Jonathan didn't smile. He leaned forward. "Do you see it now?" he said quietly. Humiliation returned. He whispered, but so did grace. Amanda's lips parted. Her breath caught. "I see it," she said. But she didn't say it loud. She didn't need to. Michael stormed out, slamming the courtroom door. His exit didn't silence the press. It only gave them something else to feed on. Amanda and Jonathan walked down the courthouse steps as flashes burst like fireworks. Reporters screamed questions. Bloggers pointed their phones. "Is it true? What happens now? Will you marry him? Was this love or accident?" Amanda kept walking. The black SUV door closed behind her. Inside, she leaned back. Her eyes shut. The baby kicked once. Jonathan sat beside her in silence. Then she whispered without looking at him, "I didn't think it would end like this." Jonathan leaned his head back against the seat. "It hasn't ended," he said. "It's just the moment where pride stops talking and life begins." Amanda didn't answer. She just placed her hand over her belly and breathed. The shift did not begin with forgiveness. It began with silence. No one apologized. No one congratulated. The world simply paused, like it was recalibrating its opinion. That night, Amanda sat alone on the edge of her bed, her hand resting on her belly. The baby was still. Lagos was not. The press waited outside her gate like hyenas waiting for a door to swing the wrong way. In the guest room, Jonathan sat in a chair reading quietly by lamplight. The same bag at his feet. The same coat folded nearby. Nelson stood in the corridor, watching nothing in particular. He hadn't slept properly in days. Amanda didn't speak to anyone until morning. By then, the headlines had begun to mutate. What had been mockery the day before was now something more careful, more curious. Jonathan Okoro, the man behind the baby. DNA confirms the truth. Amanda was right. Billionaires fall or rise. Social media posts shifted subtly. She stood in court. That's courage. Maybe it wasn't scandal. Maybe it was survival. We don't know the full story. By noon, her communications team brought in a stack of press requests. She didn't read them. She didn't respond. Instead, she called a press conference. There was no PR stunt, no soft lighting, no scripted narrative. Just Amanda, a microphone, and the man she once soaked with water now standing beside her. She wore emerald green, fitted but respectful, her belly round, visible, a living reminder of consequence. Jonathan wore clean white. No tie, no pretense. His posture was upright, but not stiff. They walked onto the stage together at Manda Group headquarters. Reporters sat like students waiting for a teacher to explain how everything went wrong and why it mattered. Amanda looked straight ahead. "I once believed that power protected you," she began. "I thought money could buy safety, that pride could shield you from pain." She paused. "But when I poured water on Jonathan, I wasn't protecting myself. I was drowning, and I took my fear and turned it into cruelty." Her voice cracked slightly, but she didn't stop. "When I found myself pregnant, I wanted to control the story. But truth doesn't obey fear. It returns. And when it returned, he stood beside me. When others ran." Then she turned, took Jonathan's hand. Their fingers locked. The cameras clicked. Dozens of them. A few gasps. One reporter put her hand over her mouth. But Amanda didn't flinch. She faced the light. "This," she said, "is not shame. This is my son's father. This is a man who protected me when I didn't deserve it." She walked off stage without taking questions. That night, she didn't sleep. Not because she was afraid, but because something inside her was beginning to soften, something she had welded shut for years. The next morning, she found Jonathan in the garden. He was sitting under the mango tree reading again. Same Bible. Same stillness. Amanda stood there for a long time, just watching him. Then she said, "Jonathan." He looked up. She stepped closer. Her hands were empty. "I was wrong," she said. "You never asked for anything. Not once." He said nothing. Amanda took a slow breath. "I've built walls my whole life. Around myself. Around my name. Around this house." She paused. "But none of them kept out what I was really afraid of." Jonathan waited. His silence wasn't heavy. It was permission. Amanda reached into her pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. She opened it. Inside was a simple gold ring. Her voice dropped. "I humiliated you when you needed help. I made you smaller so I could feel bigger. And yet, you carried me. You defended me. You told me the truth when no one else did." She held out the box. "Jonathan, will you marry me?" He looked at the ring, then at her. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a smaller, older box. From it, he took a plain silver band. "This was my mother's," he said. "I've carried it since prison. I didn't know why I kept it. Maybe I didn't want to believe life was finished." He stepped forward. Then, quietly, he knelt. "Amanda Mandanda," he said, his voice steady. "Will you be my wife?" Not out of fear. Not because the world forced it. But because sometimes, two broken people can still build something whole. Amanda's breath caught. Her knees wobbled. She nodded. Once. Then again. "Yes," she said. They knelt there together for a moment, neither speaking, as if the city had been muted. Inside, Nelson stood by the door. He didn't cry, but he turned away like someone who might. The wedding wasn't hidden. Amanda refused to be small about it. She wanted the city to see, not to impress it, but to free herself from the shadow of pretending. The cathedral glowed with gold chandeliers and white silk. Rose petals lined the aisle. Guests arrived in limousines, on okadas, and on foot. Some were billionaires. Others had only been invited because Amanda remembered their names from long ago. Amanda walked slowly. Her gown was white, modest, her belly visible beneath it. Each step deliberate. There was no veil. She didn't hide. At the altar, Jonathan waited. He wore traditional agbada in soft white and wine red. His cap sat proud on his head. His face was still unreadable, but his eyes were clearer than they'd ever been. When the vows came, Amanda didn't hesitate. "I will," she said. And when it was Jonathan's turn, he smiled faintly. "I will. Forever." The applause didn't come all at once. It built, like something people had been waiting to release but didn't know how. Some wept. Some clapped like it meant something. Others just watched and nodded, like they understood something important had happened, even if they couldn't explain what. 1 week later, Amanda gave birth. It was a quiet delivery. No cameras. No reporters. Just a hospital room, soft light, and 3 people. A healthy baby boy. They named him Williams. Amanda held him first. Her hands were shaking. Jonathan stood by the window. When she looked at him and nodded, he walked over. She handed the child to him. Jonathan took his son like someone accepting something holy. He didn't speak. He didn't cry. But something in his face tightened. "This," he whispered, "is the life they said I lost." Amanda lay back and watched him. She didn't smile. She just reached out and touched his arm. Soft. Simple. Certain. They went home 2 days later. No interview. No announcement. Just the 3 of them in the back of a black SUV, windows tinted, Lagos traffic thick as ever. Inside the mansion, Amanda walked slowly through the halls that once felt like fortresses. Now they felt like something else. She opened the door to the nursery herself, laid the baby in the crib, watched him sleep. Jonathan stood beside her, saying nothing. She turned to him, placed her hand on his shoulder. He looked at her. She didn't speak, but she stayed. Years didn't rush. They walked. After the wedding, Amanda didn't post statements. There were no glossy interviews. She simply returned to her house, her office, her life. But she returned slower. She no longer entered Manda Group headquarters like a queen with thunder behind her. Now, she walked in early, without announcement, sometimes carrying Williams in one arm and a folder in the other. Some employees stared. Some nodded. A few whispered. She ignored them all. Jonathan, meanwhile, did not vanish. He was given no ribbon-cutting ceremony. No grand welcome. Just an office with a locked drawer, a working AC, and access to financials. His title was Chief Financial Officer, but he didn't wear it. He simply worked. He arrived before most. Left after some. Spoke rarely in meetings. But when he did, The room adjusted its spine. He understands risk, one director said. He understands failure, Amanda replied. And people began to listen. It started with small decisions, inventory cuts, supplier renegotiations, foreign exchange forecasts. Jonathan's fingerprints left balance sheets leaner, steadier. The quarterly reports showed it before the board admitted it. Manda Group stabilized. Then it grew, not in headlines, but in profit margins. At home, the mansion changed. Not its marble floors or chandeliers, but its atmosphere. Fewer guards, fewer rules, fewer locked doors. Amanda opened the curtains more often. Sometimes she watched Jonathan walk barefoot across the garden at dawn, one hand holding a cup of pap, the other brushing against hibiscus leaves. He didn't speak in the mornings. Neither did she. They didn't need to. The nursery, once pristine and untouched, grew messy. Books piled, toy blocks scattered, walls smudged with little fingerprints. Williams grew fast. He asked questions with no warning. Questions that made silence feel small. Why did you cry at night when I was in your belly? Amanda paused, then answered, because I didn't know if I was strong enough for you. Was Daddy poor? She smiled faintly. No, he was just rich in a different way. By the time Williams turned 10, he had 3 computer passwords, a prepaid phone, and opinions on interest rates. Jonathan taught him patience. Amanda taught him precision. By 15, Williams was building code and breaking it for sport. By 16, he was shadowing meetings at Manda Group. Not because he was the boss's son, but because Amanda demanded it. You'll start from the bottom, she told him, and earn every step. Williams didn't argue. At 19, he graduated with top honors in data science from a Lagos university. He could have gone abroad. He didn't. This is home, he said. I want to build here. Jonathan watched him sometimes from across the office lobby. He walks like you, Amanda said. No, Jonathan replied. He walks like we survive. When Williams joined Manda Group officially, there was no fanfare. Amanda gave him a cubicle, a title that meant nothing, an assignment with too much Excel and too little praise. He didn't complain. Staff began to respect him, not because he was a Mandanda, but because he listened, asked, stayed late, never pulled rank. Amanda would watch him from her glass-walled office and think, he's already more than I was at his age. She never said it out loud. The mansion's evenings became slower. Amanda began cooking again. Small things, yam porridge, egusi, sometimes just tea. Jonathan often joined her, sleeves rolled, eyes focused, never rushing. They didn't talk about the past much. Sometimes, at night, they'd sit in the garden. Amanda barefoot, Jonathan reading. She'd say something like, do you think I would have found you again if not for the pregnancy? He'd reply, I was never lost, just uninvited. And they'd sit in that silence like it was enough. The press tried to find new stories, but scandal had run out of oxygen. There was no downfall to report, no betrayal, no misstep. Eventually, they moved on. Even the bloggers grew quiet. The only headlines now were about Manda Group's quiet expansion into West Africa, about Williams' first patent, about Amanda's public lecture on failure. It was not exciting content, just proof that not everything falls apart. Then came the wedding. Not Amanda's. Williams. He met Sonia during a tech conference in Abuja. She asked sharper questions than he did. That impressed him. 3 years later, he proposed on the roof of Manda Group's innovation wing. No press. No hashtags. The wedding was small, at least by Billionaire standards. The cathedral was old. White stone. Iron chandeliers. Amanda wore dark green lace. Jonathan wore navy agbada and red cap. Their hands linked as they walked Williams down the aisle. Not many dry eyes that day, especially not Amanda's. When the priest asked who gave the groom away, Amanda raised her voice. With joy, she said, and no regrets. Jonathan added quietly, with pride. They sat in the second row and watched their son say his vows. Amanda's fingers didn't stop trembling the entire time. After the ceremony, she stood alone on the church steps, looking out over the guests. Jonathan came beside her. You okay? He asked. Amanda didn't answer immediately. Then she turned. This is the life they said I couldn't have. Jonathan nodded. And yet here it is. Standing tall. Married. Clean. 3 years passed. The headlines barely noticed. Then, on a rainy Thursday, Amanda received a call. Sonia was in labor. At the hospital, the air smelled like antiseptic and tension. Amanda waited outside the delivery room pacing. Jonathan sat calmly, reading, as always. Then came the cry. Hi, sharp, alive. Nurses emerged smiling. Twins, one said. Girls. Amanda's knees nearly gave way. Inside, Sonia lay exhausted but radiant. William stood stunned. 2 daughters in 2 arms. Amanda approached. Slowly, carefully. She reached for the first baby, held her close. Then the second. Juliet, she whispered. And Juliana. Jonathan stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder. The babies didn't cry. They blinked, as if recognizing something. Maybe a story, maybe a circle, maybe just the scent of a home they were born into, but could never fully understand. Later, Amanda sat in the corner of the hospital room. The light was soft, the walls pale. Jonathan sat beside her. Neither spoke. She looked at him. Do you remember that day at the gate? He smiled faintly. Which one? The first. He nodded. Of course. Amanda looked down at her hands. I almost lost everything. Jonathan replied. And yet you found more than you ever dreamed. Amanda didn't smile, but her fingers reached for his. And in the quiet that followed, neither of them needed to say another word.